Thank you, Chairman, for the kind words spoken of me, and Vice Chancellor, senior military officials, distinguished guest speakers and friends. And I've been honored to be here today and talk on the subject of nation building, impediments to reconciliation and sustainable peace and security. I don't wish to talk on conflict or war. It's over now, and we must talk now on peace and progress. That is what Sri Lanka needs at the moment. And let me briefly talk on nation building, and then what is needed today is a reconciliation. And I would like to focus your attention on some of the salient factors on reconciliation, what I think is that we should do. And after defeating the terrorism decisively militarily in 2009, our country is now at the crossroads, facing formidable challenges in nation building, reconciliation and sustainable peace. And in academically, the nation building refers to the process of constructing or structuring a national identity with using the power of the state. In other words, it aims at the unification of the people within the state so that it remains politically viable and also viable and sustainable in the long run. It also can involve the use of major infrastructure development to foster social harmony and economic growth. So, nation building is one of the things that is much talked about in almost all the forums, and I think Sri Lanka is well on the way towards that. There is no doubt about that, because as the Secretary of the Presidential Task Force overseeing all the development in the Northern Province, I can without any hesitation say we are rightly on the path. But still there are some drawbacks. What is then reconciliation? There are a lot of academic literature available with regard to reconciliation. You all should know it perhaps better than me. Reconciliation is of course a very complex term because it is both the goal and the process. It refers to a future aspiration while the process is very much a present one. And also it is a very deep process because it involves coming to terms with very imperfect reality, which demands changes in our attitudes, our aspiration, emotion, feelings, and perhaps our beliefs as well. It is also a very broad process because it applies to everybody. It doesn't apply to the Sri Lanka army or to Sri Lanka government or to the diaspora. No, it applies to everybody because the attitudes and the beliefs that underpin the violent conflict spread much more generally through a community, and it must be addressed at the broad level. So I think we have achieved several remarkable success in infrastructure development and the physical development, and you can see when you go to north, a lot of developments and peace is there, local government institutions are there, and the civil administration is in the full swing. The entire province is run by the civil administration. But let us talk about what are the strategies, challenges and impediments to reconciliation and sustainable peace. There are little drawbacks which I would like to focus your attention to. Number one is that we must understand the conflict, because it is extremely important to look at the causes of the conflict our country had faced. Obviously, it did not erupt, it did not take place simultaneously or spontaneously, rather. We need to analyze all factors, political, social, and economic, that created the mistrust and polluted the ethnic harmony in this country. So we got to understand what this, and also think about the issue that brought about the issues, the conflict, because there is a presumption that the protracted conflict had finally defeated terrorism, made victors and vanquished. But to my knowledge, both are winners in the war against the LTT. The distinction must be drawn between the tigers who challenged the state and the ordinary Tamils who became victims. So there is a need for us to understand this conflict. Then only we would be in a better position to evolve a strategy for reconciliation. Then the second point that I would like to focus your attention is there a comprehensive policy on reconciliation? To my knowledge, there isn't a comprehensive policy highlighting the rationale for reconciliation, and of course the strategy encompassing all the areas that need to be addressed. That has to be in place. Here and there we see people talk about reconciliation policy. To my knowledge, there isn't a comprehensive policy. It is high time that we should have a comprehensive policy, a nationally adopted policy on reconciliation. Because such a policy will serve several purposes. Because it will help the process of reconciliation, and also it will provide a vision and a direction to all stakeholders. Then also, another point is consultation. Because before you evolve a plan, you need to have a broad and progressive consultation that is crucial to defining a model that is relevant to the realities of the country, that is relevant to the realities. Of course, we can draw examples from various other conflict-affected countries, but to my knowledge, it is of very less importance to Sri Lanka. So we need to have a model that is relevant to the realities of Sri Lanka. Then, of course, we need to have a leadership, an inspiring and transcendent leadership who command the respect of the deference from all communities of society. As much as we had a leadership for resettlement and development, that is why you see the result. For reconciliation also, we need a strong leadership encompassing all, grassroots, regional level, national level, and from top as well. It can be top-down, that doesn't matter as much as it delivers what is required. Then gender perspective, we cannot forget women and youth, because at these two segments visibly have become the most vulnerable, and hence could be the issue that would look to the future. We need to embrace them in this whole process. Then the other important thing, the people-to-people contact. As a confidence building measure, we have lost the contact between the Tamils for 30 years, and this has led to the conflict, protracted internal conflict. It had created a rift between these two communities, as you know, and this has led to considerable misunderstanding of each other's beliefs, aspiration, and this misunderstanding, the polarization of this misunderstanding and mistrust between these two communities is understandable, but it's really tragic. So it's time that we move, taking all these historical, there are a lot of commonalities between these two communities. So we have to take them as building blocks and try to see, because Tamils are part of Sri Lankan culture and Sinhala is also part of Tamil culture. So we cannot forget that. Then the language. It's true that Sinhala and Tamil languages are both national languages, but there are areas where, in terms of language, improvements of language, there are areas, drawbacks, that we go to think in evolving a policy for reconciliation. Economy. As you know, the economy of the northern province has picked up the development momentum now. When you go through the central bank report of last year, probably this year it will be out very soon, the contribution of the GDP to the northern province to the gross domestic product of the country has dramatically increased. So that shows, that's a good example of the dividends of our efforts to redevelop the northern province. But still, the dividends must go to the people, so we got to think of that as well. Then strengthening of civil administration is a must for reconciliation. So in the entire, a lot of people talk about militarization and all that, but I don't think it is true. And also the role of the media, role of the armed forces is very important. Army has played a very vibrant role in recent resettlement, so you have a better role to play in reconciliation. And also, as Chair said, and my previous speaker said about Tamil diaspora, it's not monolithic, and there are a lot of things that we can learn from them, and it's time that we get the support of them and take. And finally, I'll read my conclusion. As outlined before, the current climate in Sri Lanka is conducive for operationalizing the reconciliation process smoothly. It must be remembered that reconciliation is both a process and a goal. We have to accelerate the way forward by taking meaningful steps to address outstanding issues. The government should take the ownership of peace building and reconciliation process, as was the case with the resettlement of IDPs which took place in 2009. So with this, I'd like to conclude. I have given a full copy of my full report. Probably you will receive it before you leave today's session, and I would like you to invite you to read that, and you will get much more information with regard to peace building and reconciliation. Thank you very much.